All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Give me touching on the top prop bets for the college football national championship between Michigan and Washington. Now, I am pretty excited to cover this game because right now we are getting some pretty darn potentially good edges. And I phrase it that way because you'll see, but I don't particularly love them, but at the same time, the data does. So it's a very interesting slate. And it's one of those ones where if we do one thing on Underdog, we're going to have a pretty big edge on PrizePicks doing the other way. So I'll show you guys that. It'll make sense in a second here. But I want to start with the game preview here. So 4.5 is going to be the point spread. 56 is going to be the over and under. So it does seem like it's going to be a higher scoring game, more so than what Michigan is used to, but they are favored to win by 4.5 points. So that is an interesting point. And so what I was teasing earlier was the fact that the PrizePicks lines compared to the Underdog lines, we are getting some pretty darn big discrepancies there, really for all the prop bets, but especially for Washington. So Rome, we can see his receiving yards on PrizePicks is set at 97.5. You could easily bet the under there and you are gaining a pretty big edge there. Then you could also go ahead and bet the over on Underdog. And we can see that the average sportsbook line would be favoring the under already at 90. So we can see that this is going to be a better bet on PrizePicks. I want to continue on to some of the other ones that we are getting for Washington, and let's just sort it by Washington. And so looking at Washington, guys, what I really want to show you guys as well is going to be Michael Penix. So personally, I think he's going to have a good game. I do. I'm with the public here. And what I mean by that is I think the reason why we're getting the line at 300 on PrizePicks is because of the public's perception of Michael Penix, is that he's going to go off, is that he's one of the best, if not the best quarterbacks in college football. And I would agree with that. But the average sportsbook line would have his passing yard total set at 93.5. This is basically a 50-50. So although it might not seem like much, 7 yards is going to be a very big difference. And so we are seeing that we have some pretty strong, potentially correlated bets here. Another one, Polk for under his receiving yards. Again, at 57.5, the average sportsbook line is favoring the under at their current line of 52 receiving yards. So again, on PrizePicks, that is a good one, okay? Jalen as well, a 10-yard difference between Underdog and PrizePicks. We look at the average sportsbook line, they would have it set about 62 on average. Again, guys, pulling in a bunch of different props for the average sportsbook line from a bunch of different sportsbooks. That's how we make that up. So, when it says 61.9, that's because some sportsbooks have it a little bit different, but all in all, the line is about at 62. They are slightly favoring the over there, don't get me wrong, but still we are getting an edge. So for me, the way I'm reading this is that we probably do want to do some sort of stack with Penix for under his passing yards, with Polk for one, and then with Rome. That is a good one, but we could stack it then with Jalen as well. Like we could do all four of those. We could stack that. If you do that on PrizePicks, the payout is not going to be as good. So I do think that's a good route to go. Again, we are getting some big discrepancies there. You wouldn't imagine that we actually would be getting those discrepancies like we are in this game. And so again, just getting to Underdog, kind of looking at just the props that they are giving us here for them, we are going to see there is a slight edge by betting these props both ways. Okay, we are already seeing that for Jack Westover, that the over receiving yards was seemingly a good one. At 27, that one already had a 54% chance to hit or so. So at 25.5, that is a pretty big edge. And I want to call it, the projection data is taken from different sources, just so you guys know, than the average sportsbook line. And that is just for us to have a secondary evaluation of whether a line is good or not. I like to see all the data points lining up. And that's the one point I want to call out, is that for the most part, PrizePicks does seem to be more on par with the projection data and with the average sportsbook line, where Underdog seems to be undervaluing them a little bit. So to me, I actually would rather bet the over that we are getting Jack, Polk, Jalen for over theirs, and then even Rome for over his receiving yards. Like again, we are getting better edges there. Obviously the data likes these three much better though. So I do think that there's a pretty good edge. And so while we are on Underdog, let's go ahead and switch up and get into Michigan's props. And again, guys, I don't want to touch the rushing yards props for a quarterback. I just never like to do that. So I'm not going to be touching this one at all. Again, I just don't like those. Not really for receiving yards when it's this low either. 6.5 to 7.5, that's not a big difference. And really for Michigan, it seems like all the lines are correct. Now, I like Romaine Wilson, but personally, I don't feel the need to go out of my way to bet any of those. And that's going to be the difficult part, I'll say, for this game, is that if you are trying to run out a game stack for this game, personally, I don't love the props that we are getting for Michigan. So for me, the way I'm attacking this is going with the Washington props and then pairing those props with other prop bets that are popping up Maybe it's on the EV only sheet for Underdog, you know, throughout the day that I can pair Washington props up, or it's the PrizePicks EV only sheet. You know, we can pair that up with those Washington props. But let's jump into PrizePicks. We'll touch on Michigan props there. We are going to see that JJ McCarthy for under his passing yards is going to be a pretty decent one there as well. So yeah, this is the one I don't mind. We're seeing that the average sportsbook line would be favoring the under here at about 53% or so. Not terrible. Like if we're struggling to find another prop bet, we could run that out there. And then also we could run out Wilson there for under there. Again, PrizePicks does seem to be the highest of the projection or of all the data points that we have coming in for the most part. In a couple occasions, the projection data does like the overs a little bit more. But I do want to point out one other prop bet as well. So guys, I'm not a big fan of the yards combo prop, and this actually just got bumped. It was much better an hour ago. This is still not bad though. So we see the line for JJ McCarthy is set at about 199 for passing yards. We see that for Penix, his passing yards set about 293. Okay, so do the math on that. We are getting a slight edge here. Now, if you use the PrizePicks data points where they're giving Penix a few more receiving or passing yards, it should be a little bit higher than it currently is. So all in all, I do think that that could be a slight edge for you guys. If you think this game is going to be a shootout, that'd be a way about going and attacking that. If you guys like Penix to get a bunch of touchdowns as well, this is not a terrible one. JJ McCarthy as well. Like if you want to run those out there, I'm fine with it. We weren't seeing any good receptions props. And yeah, in terms of fantasy score, I don't want to touch those, but I will say for fantasy score props, guys, if you think Penix is going to have a good game, bet the over fantasy score on Underdog, because there we are getting about a 1.5 point difference between what PrizePicks is saying, because they have it about 22.5. So pretty big edge there as well. And so looking at the bet of the day, just showing you guys the Underdog prop bet. Again, we are getting some pretty big edges between PrizePicks and Underdog, given the lines that we are getting. So again, I don't mind the idea of doing this both ways. So for me, I would rather though do like pair these two up together. Like we saw that these two actually, Polk and Jalen, those are two pretty big discrepancies that I'm fine with. But all in all, we are getting some very big yardage differences between PrizePicks and Underdog. The issue that I have is that if we pair these together, you're going to get less of a payout. And so you really only want to do two together, probably the quarterback and then one of the receivers. You guys can put together a bunch of different slips with that as well. Just the payout just gets significantly reduced when we do it like this. That's kind of the unfortunate side of it. And then I just paired up with De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox right now is one of the better EV bets that we are currently getting in the NBA. That's just how I'm going about attacking, but also just to show you guys how to go about doing this. And then I want to show you guys the PrizePicks slip as well. It's basically going to be doing the exact opposite. So for PrizePicks, again, just using this as an example, these were two of the better college basketball prop bets that we have right now. So I just went ahead and used those, and then just using these. Again, these are big discrepancies. We saw that these two are two of the bigger discrepancies, but a 10-yard receiving yard difference at that amount is pretty big. And then same thing for passing yards. That is pretty big. So all in all, it does seem like we are getting a pretty big edge one way or the other. Again, though, you probably want to pair Penix up like this or like this, you know, to get a better payout. And then obviously just tack on whichever other prop bet you think is going to be best for that slate. Just to remind everyone, if you guys do choose to use Underdog, that slip there, and you guys haven't signed up, just use the promo code 905. That's going to kick back some money to the channel. Again, that has not went unnoticed. People have been doing that, and I really do appreciate that. That is going to be all for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to give it a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell as well. If you guys want access to any of the props tools or any of the fantasy golf tools as well, they're all available at 905sports.com for just $10 a month. Thank you guys for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cash.